Welcome everybody
everybody.
into another episode of the Brickyard Podcast. We're here to break down the worst, the best top 5 list according to the Brickyard, most accurate internet sources right here. We're going to recap every game from this past week in the NFL, preview the next week, react to what ChatGPT says is the worst first dates according to ChatGPT, and then what we've been watching. But welcome to the Brickyard Live Show.
Yeah, we're here, and it was a eventful first week of the NFL in October. Big week for road teams if you're following the action on Sunday, and then also kind of got kicked off on Thursday night with the 49ers and the Rams, and then we also saw both the undefeated teams fall. It's crazy how on a Sunday you see these storylines play out, and because you see the Eagles lose, you think, oh, that would make sense that the Patriots should beat the Bills on Sunday Night Football, but it just kind of made sense that it would happen.
It was poetic, to be honest, and I don't even know what game to start with or if we should talk about our lists first, but the Patriots, this was like the Patriots coming out party this week. We had the Colts. They've continued their September success into October. They've been successful. We got our first wins for some winless teams, some embarrassing losses for a historically pathetic franchise, and Trevor Lawrence with a walk-off in Monday Night Football. All on our bingo card, of course.
Yeah, and we're going to get to all of those major storylines and so much more later on in the show. But first, we have to get the awful, terrible parts of week 5 out of our system. We went through a full quarter of football, and now we're already on to October, and it's time to point out 5 of the worst teams or things that happened in the NFL so far this season. So heading from week 5 into week 6, we have Brick Jameson with the 5 worst NFL teams, brought to you by the Brickyard.
Yes, and let's talk about graduation, because we like to celebrate our heroes, and it is important to show our failures as well. Graduating from this list, the Tennessee Titans. You got your first win. Good work, boys. And a great epic win against the Cardinals, who we will cover later for sure. ESPN giving Berman his 3 minutes back. Thank you, ESPN, for graduating from the worst top 5. And then the Panthers beating the Dolphins in historic fashion. Rico, we trust. So they are graduating from the worst top 5. Honorable mention to the Jets. You would think that because they're 0-5, they deserve to be on this list. I say not. They are average in everything except for defense. Their defense is horrendous. Who would have thought the defensive mastermind that is Aaron Glenn could not save them, nor their faith in Christ, but unfortunately, they will not be on this worst top 5. But they are mentioned because they are 0-5. But there are worse teams, like the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders at number 5. Geno Smith is on track for 30 interceptions. We have not seen 30 interceptions since the infamous 30 for 30 Jameis Winston season. Not only that, their head coach, Pete Carroll, is the oldest head coach in the NFL history, as we know. You sacrifice Brock Bowers for Ashton Genty, and a little bit of a history for coaches who have coached past the age of 74. I have 3 examples. Casey Stengel, baseball, of course. Coached the Mets 31-64 the year he turned 74. Did not work. Connie Mack, coached till he was 88. Post 74, he had 1 winning season, won 30% of his games. Maybe old head coaches do not work in the NFL. Who would have thought? Raiders at number 5. At number 4, how about the most pathetic defense in all of the NFL? Yes, of course, I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens. It's great that you can occasionally score 40 points, but this team is on track to allow over 600 points in a single season, which will be the most in single season history of anybody in the NFL, never mind the Ravens. Not only that, you have not allowed less than 37 points this season. You have only scored over 37 points once this season, and of course, it resulted in a loss to the Lions. Ravens, get your shit together on defense, and maybe you'll be off of this worst top 5, but Ravens at number 4. At number 3, how about the Dolphins? How could I forget about the Dolphins? You give up 200 yards to Rico Doidle. If Rico Doidle played 17 games against just the Dolphins, he would be on track for 3,400 rushing yards. at this point. He would move from an unranked active running back all-time list to number 16, surpassing the likes of Austin Eckler. If Rico Doidle had his way, he would play the Dolphins every single year. The one reason why they are not higher on this list is because we saw the resurrection of country rap star Darren Waller in this game, getting 2 touchdowns for them, but not enough to get the win. Dolphins at number 3. At number 2, that's right, number 2, a team that has been stapled to the number 1 list the last 2 weeks, the Cincinnati Bengals fall to number 2, still on this list, but a step in the right direction. Not one, no more. Traded for Joe Flacco. That's good news for us. Graduation hopefully coming soon for them. That being said, you have scored 3 points through 3 quarters with the Lions. You scored 3 meaningless touchdowns when the game was already over. If you remove the 4th quarter from the Lions game, you scored 16 points over the last 11 quarters otherwise, and almost all of those are field goals. And if we're going to shit on Geno Smith for having the most interceptions in the league, how about the next 2, which is Joe Flacco and Jake Browning for the Bengals? So Bengals, you are still pathetic. You are the 2nd worst team according to the Brickyard. But nobody, and I mean nobody, could have had a worse Sunday this week than none other than the Glendale, Arizona Cardinals. You want to talk about a game that if an alien came down from Earth and I had to describe to them why the Cardinals are as pathetic as they are, this was everything on the bingo sheet you could have asked for. You had goofy Titan punting touchdown interceptions in this game. You had Kyler Murray getting balls hit off of his head, resulting into fumbles in this game. You had their head coach, Mr. Who Took the Bus Today, getting in an altercation with Emmanuel DiMercato. Not only that, you are almost about to come up by 2 touchdowns, and God forbid you take 1 extra step before releasing the ball, resulting in a loss of downs. So the Cardinals, since they've moved to Arizona, have won 40% of their games. They are 244 and 355 since moving to Glendale. They have 6 playoff appearances and almost 40 years of time with Arizona. And I think, honestly, if you had the choice, if you polled everybody in the state of Arizona, if they prefer to have the Cardinals there or not, I think most people would say, actually, NFL, move them somewhere else. They just moved the Coyotes to Utah. Maybe we see the Utah Cardinals in the near future. But the state of Arizona is done with the Cardinals. They are the most pathetic franchise and the worst team according to the Brickyard.
Yeah, worst team according to the Brickyard. And if you ask the Cardinals fans and people living in Phoenix, Arizona, I think they would deport the Arizona Cardinals if they could, put in a phone call to ICE and get them out of there. I mean, I feel like there's more Raiders fans in Phoenix than there is in Las Vegas at this point, to be honest. Like, do you see a lot of like Raiders gear when you're out and about?
I see a lot of Rams fans. I see a lot of Cowboys fans. And I see a lot of Raiders fans. But you know what I don't see? Cardinals fans. Mostly because nobody is from here. But at the same time, like if I were to move to LA, right? And there's a lot of transplants in LA, you would see people rooting for the Rams. You'd see a few people rooting for the Chargers. But in this particular franchise, how could you support a franchise that has been pathetic for 100 years? They have not had a single string of success. Every playoff appearance you see are not consecutive. It's playoff appearance. They don't want to show up for another 10 years. So this team is just pathetic. And frankly, I think the state of Arizona is done with their bullshit.
Do you think that's like an issue where if you have a city where a lot of people have moved there, you'll have a tough time building a fan base, or is it more just the issue that Cardinals have sucked in? If you want to get new fans, you just have to be good.
Well, the thing is like, I'm from New England. Why would I root for the Cardinals when the Patriots have been great my whole life? And then, like anybody else, some people come from the Midwest. Why would I would rather root for the Bears than root for the Cardinals? The problem with the Cardinals is, for one thing, they haven't been there that long, and secondly, since they've been there, they've been one of the worst franchises in the NFL. And they sucked in St. Louis. They sucked in Minneapolis. They've sucked everywhere they've gone. This is a franchise that can erase from existence, and the history of the NFL would remain intact very easily, to be honest. So the problem is that they've just sucked since they moved here, and because of that, nobody wants to rally around them because they're like, you know what? I'll be a Bears fan still. I'll be a Rams fan still. I'll be a Cowboys fan instead. All because they just have continued to suck. They've never been successful.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Cardinals should be moved to Portland, to be honest. I feel like that's a city that embodies their identity.
Of what? Just being pathetic?
Miserable.
Yeah,
It rains all the time. Small, pathetic.
like Kyler. So,
Like
yeah.
Kyler.
Yeah, so easily at number 1, maybe stapled here for the time being, Cardinals as the worst team according to the Brickyard. But I'm tired of being negative. You know this podcast is a glass half full podcast. We're well aware of that. So without further ado, instead of talking of the worst, how about the best? Pillars of greatness. Top 5 teams according to the Brickyard.
Yeah, we have the top 5 teams according to the Brickyard, and this was definitely a foundational week, as Julian Edelman put it on his podcast today. Not only for the NFL, but for certain teams in the NFL. And at number 5, I have not the Bills, the Patriots. And there's a reason I kind of just left the Buffalo Bills off of my list last week. I'm like, I don't know. It just seems kind of boring to put them on this list only because they're 4-0. No, they're going to get to the playoffs and eventually disappoint us. Or in the Patriots' first primetime game in the Drake May era, they're going to go to Buffalo and potentially the last game they will ever play against Buffalo, the last Sunday night football game in that stadium before the Bills move to a new one, and then usher them into a new stadium in Buffalo with a big fat loss. And you saw in this game, the Patriots got that muscle up front. This is a big defensive line, and Christian Gonzalez just got back. Rob Gronkowski says Christian Gonzalez is one of the best corners in the game. I don't know if I'd say he's the best, but he's definitely up there. Made a good point where Christian Gonzalez really hasn't had a game where one of these big name receivers have really burned him for a lot of yards. So you have the Patriots on defense, and then just on offense, Drake May showed that you don't need 3 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, 3 passing touchdowns to be an elite quarterback. To be an elite quarterback, you just have to make the right play at the right time, not give up on a play. And then you have the iconic image now of him stiff arming the pass rusher, and then he one hands it as he's falling to the ground to Stephon Diggs, who absolutely lost his mind in this game. Mike Vrabel and the Patriots have a easy schedule, which is another reason why they're going to be on this top 5, because you look at their next 7 games, and this is a team that could easily go 12-5 just because of how easy their schedule is. So at number 5, I have the New England Patriots. At number 4, I don't care that they lost. I only care that I saw that their offense still has life. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I get you go out there, lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They get a 99-yard pick return on Patrick Mahomes. You don't like to see it, but you're also going to get one of your best wide receivers back. We're seeing Patrick Mahomes start to get into a real rhythm with his team. We saw Kareem Hunt come alive. Isaiah Pacheco seemed like he was starting to get a little bit of his foundation under him again, running the football. So with me, the Kansas City Chiefs, as long as they're productive on offense, they got 28 points in this game. Another higher scoring game versus Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, hey, they played good so far this season against some better competition. I think you just caught the Chiefs on an off night, but overall, when you have Mahomes and you have the Kansas City Chiefs playing on offense like that, I think they're still a top 5 team in the NFL. If it was coming down to one game to win it all, I would still put the Chiefs up there with the 3 other teams ahead of them and the New England Patriots. But at number 3, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4 comebacks for Baker Mayfield in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was bitching out a fan at halftime, saying, "You're going to be crying at halftime when we come back out of the tunnel." And then he goes on a run and then makes every single play that the Buccaneers defense is doing just enough to win. They end up getting the game sealing interception on Sam Darnold where he turns it over. And this is a game where you go into a hostile environment in Seattle, which is one of the toughest stadiums to play in, without Bucky Irving. And then you have to make do with Rashad White, but Emeka Ibuka is still playing out of his mind. And then you have some other players coming along for you, and Baker Mayfield just making every single play that he needs to. I get it. You lost to Philadelphia, but they're a tough team, and you lost to them at home, but you come right back, win a shootout versus the Seattle Seahawks, and you're showing you can win a close, ugly game like the game versus Houston in Houston, and you can go to someone else's home turf in Seattle and then get another win. I still love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It seems like there's just a little bit of magic in the air with this team. I don't know what it is. So at number 3, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 2, another team that lost this week, but I am not taking them off the top 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. You went out there, tough loss to Denver, but they're still the defending Super Bowl champions overall. Still like what I'm seeing from their defense right now. You just had an off day versus Denver, but there's not really too much else to say about the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they'll bounce back from this. You're due for a loss at some point. So at number 2, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. And then at number 1, just when we thought they weren't finished setting records, they set another one. Through the first 5 games of the season, the Detroit Lions have set the record for the most points they've scored in franchise history. Who knew? I mean, just when you think the Lions are done breaking records, turning over stones, breaking curses, Dan Campbell stops another one, and then the Lions go out there and score the most points they've ever had through the first 5 weeks of the season. I didn't think it was possible, and then their defense continues to play well. You had another solid matchup this week where you go out there and you're able to get it done. Then your offense ends up exploding. Jared Goff is playing well. This team is showing that they're a well-oiled machine. Dan Campbell has command of that room, and it doesn't matter who the defensive coordinator is, doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. Dan Campbell is proving he's the driving force behind this team. And then you go out there and then you get a big win in Cincinnati where, sure, they put up 24 points, but if you wanted to, you probably could have held them to 10, but you end up letting them score a little bit at the end of it. But the fact that the Lions have been this dominant on offense so far and look even better than they have, and then you look at Brock Wright getting involved, Sam Laporta is getting better, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery is still an elite duo, and now you have Tesla on top of it. I mean, good luck stopping this team.
Good luck. And I mean, between losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, I feel like they've been able to perfectly implement the new coordinators swimmingly. I mean, the fact that the Lions are outscoring their predecessors shows that their offense is still a juggernaut. And then their defense has been a lot better too. I honestly think that the Lions defense that we're seeing this year was better than what we saw in the Aaron Glenn era on defense. If you look at that Bengals game, like, yes, they gave up 24, but most of those points came in garbage time after they were already up 37-3. So a lot of these points to me don't matter that they scored 24. Like, it's great that Jake Browning can pad his stats. Maybe the XFL will take him by the time his season is over. But I think this Lions defense that we've seen has been tough. It's been getting to the quarterback. They've been stopping big plays. So Lions, what I've seen from them is amazing. All these other teams that we added on this list are well worthy. We're going to talk about the Patriots renaissance that we're seeing now with Drake May, but excellent list. Top 5 Brickyard components here. So you have now been briefed, the worst and the best. But without further ado, week 5, NFL, first quarter done. We gave our quarterly grades. Make sure to check that out on our YouTube channel. Week 5, we're now officially in the second quarter, aka the October months. Leaves are starting to change, but not so much in the great city of LA. LA Rams 49ers Thursday night football came to overtime. Costly fumble from Kyron Williams. 49ers get the dub. Mac Jones looking excellent out there.
Yeah, Mac Jones looked excellent out there, and Mac Jones is another case of you can't judge a quarterback by his situation. And there are a couple types of quarterbacks in the NFL. There are quarterbacks that are just bad no matter what, like your Colt McCoys of the world, who are just your current travelers. You have your quarterbacks who are good and moderate in situation like Mac Jones is, and then you just have your quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, who are probably going to be good in whatever system you put them in. And then Mac Jones is just one of those guys where if you give him actual coaching, you give him an actual supporting cast, where you look at New England and Kendrick Bourne was his best receiver in New England, and now he's kind of his second option to be in San Francisco. And then he has an offensive line. He has Christian McCaffrey with him. And then he also has Kyle Shanahan instead of Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. You think he might look a little bit better. And then Mac Jones also showing that he is a bigger guy. He's a little bit stronger than Brock Purdy, and he can make a lot of really good throws. And some of the quick decisions he was making, like, okay, I could definitely see Mac Jones being one of those guys who turns it around with San Francisco and is a legitimate option for a team either looking to move off their franchise quarterback because they're paying him too much money, or maybe it's a Geno Smith situation where a team just doesn't feel like a rookie quarterback would be as good, and you just want a guy on a team friendly deal who you can put legitimate pieces around, who maybe won't be the best quarterback in the world, but I know I can actually win with him. And he did take the Patriots to the playoffs.
He did. He took the Patriots to the playoffs. Mac Jones, he's in that archetype now with the Geno Smiths in Seattle. He's in that same conversation with Sam Darnold in Minnesota. Like, you give them a good situation and they're going to do well. And that's why we're still seeing Sam Darnold do well in Seattle, because he has weapons around him. But how could anybody have succeeded in the Patriots system that they had? You had a defensive coordinator as your offensive coordinator. You had a coach who didn't want you, didn't talk to you after year two, and they basically just kind of wasted the first 3 years of Mac Jones' career. Last year, he kind of bounced around, played in Jacksonville, had some decent games there. But now that you're with Kyle Shanahan and you can lean on Christian McCaffrey, you have Kendrick Bourne, and there are other players in that offense that are going to be implemented again, like the Jawan Jennings of the world, that are going to make his job a little bit easier. But he's a perfect example of a guy that you give him a right situation and he'll thrive. And there's plenty of quarterbacks that are in that circumstance now. But credits to Mac Jones getting a win. He's played really well in his San Francisco era, QBR over 100 at this point. Then on the other end, Matt Stafford plays a great game. Rams move the ball fairly well, but ultimately it's the fumbles that cost them. They had two costly fumbles from Stafford and Kyron Williams. And ultimately, just the Niners just wanted it more. They got the win, but great Thursday night game. I feel like we've kind of had a rough patch of primetime games, I feel like. And Thursday night was actually a pretty good Thursday night game.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a good game, but do you think, like, on the Rams side, Kyron Williams has been like really good. He's been really consistent, but he just seems like the best worst player in the NFL right now, where he's having Ramondre Stevenson type fumble issues where it seems like he's dropping a ball every single week.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I feel like if they have an opportunity to acquire someone like a Brees Hall, where the Jets might be rebuilding, maybe they don't want to pay him. Maybe they go out and trade for Brees Hall. But I don't think Kyron Williams is a guy that you can lean on to be your guy and consistently get you first downs, move the chains. And I think he's a good running back. But if I'm the Rams, I consider either having a split committee with him and maybe someone like a Brees Hall, or maybe someone to a lesser degree. But I don't think he's going to be your main back. I think you're better off splitting those carries, treating it maybe like a Sonic and Knuckles in Detroit. Just get yourself another good running back to pair alongside him. But the way his fumble issues are, like, this is what's the reason why the Rams are not 4-1 is because of Kyron Williams and some of the costly mistakes he's had both this week and in previous weeks.
Yeah, especially like this week, it was right at the goal line where he had the fumble. So it's definitely been to a certain point where he's cost them some games. And that does worry me, especially if you're going to get into a playoff scenario where you're going to be going up against a high powered team like potentially the Eagles, where it already did cost you in that game. And then a team like the Lions, who could potentially score on every play and have been good at punching the ball out.
Yeah, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble. But hopefully, Kyron Williams either figures out his fumbling problems, or they can replace him with a running back that can keep their hand on the football. But that's a good team to pivot to. You talked about the Lions. Lions desecrate the Bengals. The score is a little deceiving, 37-24. I'm going to call it 37-3. But Jared Goff, 19-23, 3 touchdowns. We got Montgomery getting going. We had some big plays from, well, Marcus is on a temporary leave of absence. He will return to us briefly. But this Lions game, you saw the defense finally execute, which I feel like that's been the biggest problem with the Lions over the last 4 years, really since the Dan Campbell era. It's always been these track meets that they have. But now that their defense is finally getting utilized, finally being successful, I'm really excited to see where the Lions go moving forward. But talking about this Lions and Bengals game, what was your thoughts on Lions Bengals?
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals were kind of like me for a brief second there. They were lagging. I don't know what's going on with the internet, but it was just the Bengals continuing to just force everything. Everything seemed hard. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. So they kind of just continued the trend the past few weeks, and then just the Lions going on the road. And it's impressive when a team can just score that many points and then just keep that pace up where it doesn't seem like it's very hard with what the Detroit Lions are doing. It's kind of just like watching Kevin Durant score 30 points, except this is the NFL where the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl last year, didn't score 30 points until the conference championship, and now the Lions seem like the most effortless scoring team in the NFL since week 1. I mean, it just seems easy how they put up points, and the offense can look kind of mid to bad, and then you look up like, when did they get 31 points?
Yeah, they can score in a hurry because you have receivers like Amon Ra, who's maybe is more of like a slot mid-range receiver. You have the deep threat with Jameson Williams. Isaac Tesla has been really good for them as a rookie. Hasn't had a lot of opportunities, but has executed when they throw to him. Made some great catches already this year. So the Lions are a wagon. Obviously, we know what Sam Laporta brings. We know what Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery bring. But I was talking when you were off the air. The Lions' defense has been what's impressed me so far this year. Just the fact that you can shut this team down. And granted, the Bengals have been a very poor example of an offense this past couple of weeks, but the fact that they've been able to shut them down and maintain momentum, I think this Lions team, I think they're better than what they were last year. And if they can stay healthy, then this team could go head toe to toe with a team like the Eagles or the Rams, Packers, you name them.
Yeah, I mean, last year they weren't even supposed to really be in the situation that they were. Everyone was writing them off because they had so many injuries on defense. So when you look at that, take it into an account, and then with their defense just being healthy this year, that should automatically put them in the Super Bowl conversation because people are saying, oh, they might not even win their division because Minnesota is just a healthier team. And then they win a huge game versus Minnesota. You have you're able to actually get the 1 seed, and then it's just a tough loss versus the Commanders. But if you had a defense at full health, that could have negated some of the turnovers. And then you talk about losing some of the coordinators in that game versus Washington. It was like Ben Johnson knew he was on the way out, but he kind of got a little bit full of himself and just forgot the basics, and it was too many trick plays. So will another first year offensive coordinator actually help that with them this year, where we don't need to actually overcomplicate things, especially when we're in the divisional round of the playoffs trying to get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially if we kind of look at the rest of their schedule too, for the Lions, like we have, I mean, they face the Chiefs and Bucks, but after that, Vikings, unsure what their quarterback situation looks like. Commanders are banged up. You have the Giants later. I think this is a team that can easily win 12 to 13 games, especially with how high powered their offense is. They're in a great spot overall. So I love what I saw from the Lions on Sunday. Just like what I saw from the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Talk about a team like over the last couple of years, right? You've had the Bill Belichick debacle, the Mac Jones era that failed, the Cam Newton experience. And I wouldn't say the Patriots fans have suffered. I think after 20 years of greatness, this isn't necessarily what I would call suffering, but renaissance again. Drake May. This is a coming out party, I would say. I think a lot of people thought he looked good last year, but this year he has Josh McDaniels, who for some reason is only good in New England, it seems, but is amazing. He ended up giving me, I would say in this game, Drake May showed that he could be a Justin Herbert-esque type player, maybe better. Is mobile, makes some big throws when it matters. And the big play for me that I think was his coming out party was what you referenced in the top five. He's falling down. He's stiff arming a defender. He gets the ball out to Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs wiggles through, gets the first down as he's falling down. That play right there is okay. Drake May is a superstar at this point. And then their defense is playing well. Stephon Diggs had a renaissance against the Buffalo Bills. I said they'll be good if he can be 80% of Stephon Diggs. He was 100% of Stephon Diggs against the Bills. The only thing for me that I want to see them do moving forward is give the ball to Travion Henderson. he is your best back. He doesn't fumble like Ramondre Stevenson does. Antonio Gibson's out for the year. Give the ball to your rookie that you just spent a second-round pick on. I don't know why it's so hard. Maybe they're slowly implementing him, but that's my one thing. Give the ball to this Henderson kid. I think this guy is going to be the next great back for the Patriots.
Yeah, and Mike Vrabel said Ramondre Stevenson's fumbling issues isn't a problem yet, but if it continues to happen, it's going to be something that he's going to need to look at. And that is a scenario where at the trade deadline, you could see the Patriots making a trade because I think the Patriots' offensive line has shown that they can create holes, and there actually have been some explosive gaps for Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, and then Antonio Gibson was also able to get yards. The problem is they're not able to hold on to the ball at the goal line. So I think the Patriots are going to be really dangerous because they were able to stop James Cook in October, and that defense has a lot of beef and they have a lot of muscle on the front line. You spend a ton of money on your defensive line this offseason, and then you still have Christian Barmore there. And they're going to be one of the toughest teams to run the ball on. And then you're going to have Christian Gonzalez, who's going to be able to tag any receiver you have, where Khalil Shakir, I mean, he didn't have too many big explosive plays. You have James Cook have a down day. And it's weird to say, but if you want to beat the Bills, the way to do it is to keep Josh Allen in the pocket and make him beat himself. Like if you want to beat the Bills, it's said, and it's weird to say because Josh Allen is and can be Superman, but the Patriots kept him in the pocket and made him throw the ball. You had Robert Spillane following him across the field. They weren't letting the Buffalo Bills run the ball, and they kind of exposed that, yeah, I mean, if you can limit their explosive plays, they
Yeah, I think it broke up a little bit there, but you mentioned if they kind of limit the Buffalo's explosive plays, that's kind of the key to success for Buffalo. Watching this game, Patriots had the game plan. Josh Allen, I wouldn't say he had a bad game, but it felt like an off night. There were some balls that he missed. The receiver core is much more of like a committee receiver room where maybe Khalil Shakir eats one day, maybe Keon Coleman eats another. But I still think like Buffalo, my biggest concerns with them throughout this entire season has been who's their main guy? Like, who do you call upon when you need a first down? I don't know if I can say that's Khalil Shakir. I don't know if I can say that that's Keon Coleman yet. Maybe Keon Coleman can be what we hope he is to be. But so far, the Buffalo offense to me feels like it's Josh Allen, James Cook, and anybody else that is willing to catch the ball. Dalton Kincaid had a big game in this game, but ultimately, when you make Josh Allen make those plays for himself, occasionally he can get a little loose with the football, something that maybe you don't see as often with someone like Mahomes, someone like Lamar, or even someone like a Jaden Daniels. That is when that is kind of the issue that we've had with Josh Allen in his time is that occasionally from time to time he plays a little too loose. That's why you saw the interception. That's why you saw the fumble in this game. And that's ultimately the difference in this game. That's the reason why the Patriots ended up walking it off and winning in regulation. It's because ultimately they just kind of made Buffalo have another style of play that maybe they're not accustomed to. So Buffalo, Marcus is experiencing some technical difficulties, but we will move on to the London game because I'm sure he won't have too much to say there. We went to London, Vikings and Browns, Carson Wentz, Dylan Gabriel, the premier of Dylan Gabriel. We have Joe Flacco out the door now. Where is he? We don't know. Dylan Gabriel is now their coach, and he played fairly well. I mean, this game was on at 6:30 in the morning for me, so I'm not going to lie. Maybe I wasn't watching this game fully intently, but Viking show, they still have a great defense. Jordan Mason, they can lean on to some extent, get some big yards. Justin Jefferson had a monster game in England as well. In Cleveland, they just don't have enough juice. They just don't. I mean, it's nice what we saw from Judkins. He looks like he could be maybe their next back moving forward, post Nick Chubb, but ultimately, this was the Vikings game that they ended up seizing in London. I moved on to the Vikings and Browns game, London game. Always exciting at 6:30 in the morning. Any thoughts on the Browns and Vikings game?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I watched this one actually at Culinary Dropout, so that
Oh, nice.
was a pretty good background game, but you just had the feeling that no matter what the Browns did, that the Vikings were gonna come back and win it. Like, I never had a doubt in my mind that the Vikings were gonna win that game. I mean, the shame of coming back from 2 weeks in Europe, you're in Ireland, and then you're in London, 0-2 for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, you're the Vikings and you come back from Northern Europe 0-2. Definitely didn't think that was going to happen. And the Browns, it's going to be a weird situation because now you traded Flacco. So you're essentially stopping yourself from putting yourself in the situation now if uh, Dylan Gabriel sucks, we're gonna put in Shador. If Shador sucks, we're gonna put in Flacco. So you kind of just put a stop to that rotating door, and you're fully committing. It's gonna be one of these guys, and we'll see who it is at the end of the year.
Yeah. What did you think about Dylan Gabriel? I feel like I didn't really get a full sense of him, but made some okay throws. I don't like that he throws lefty, and I feel like maybe that's a prejudice of mine, but um, I definitely need to see more from him. This Vikings defense is tough, but let's see how he is when he gets back to the land.
Yeah, it's tough to take like any stake in a London game, but the fact that at least looked like he gave them some juice, I thought was good, and I think he can be fine. I think he showed enough in this game where it's your debut overseas, not necessarily an ideal situation going up against the Vikings here. So all in all, I thought he did okay for being a rookie.
Yeah, I would agree. But we move on to how about we talk about Saints and Giants? You want to talk about a fall from grace? We went from white boy summer to the gringo holocaust that was losing to the Saints. The Saints, they get the win. Spencer Radler, honestly, I'm happy for Spencer Radler. He hasn't played poorly, I would say, for a team that is the Saints, that is obviously in some clear disarray. He had a huge play from none other than who will soon be a legend in some circles, Rashid Shaheed. Let's talk about the deep
Yes.
threat that is Rashid Shaheed. 87-yard touchdown here. Chris Olave, he got to go in there as well. But, I mean, Spencer Radler, I'm going to pull up his stats. I feel like for a guy that not a lot of high expectations for, his stats have mimicked similarly that of Mac Jones so far, but it's in New Orleans. 6 touchdowns, 1 pick, 67% completion rating, like fifth round pick. I know the Saints aren't going to be great, and I don't expect them to win a lot of games, but glad to see Spencer Radler get a win, even if it is against the white boys of New York. And I like what I've seen from Jackson Dart so far in his brief stint with New York, but it seems like he is definitely a little too loose with the football. Had 3 turnovers in this game. Giants had 5 total turnovers. Almost made an appearance on the worst top 5, but I have too much love for Cam Scattaboo and Jackson Dart. But thoughts on this game? What we were pronounced to be the Turd Bowl originally.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those games that it's not going to have too much impact on the grander scheme of things in the NFL, but was it one of the most entertaining games of the 1 o'clock slate? Absolutely. You have Desmond Ritter, and the fact that ever since week 5 in the NFL season, Desmond Ritter is undefeated. I mean, think about how scary that is for the rest of the NFL that Rashid Shaheed, Desmond Ritter, Jawan Johnson, Alvin Kamara, and the Kellen Moore Saints are undefeated in October. I mean, it's only down from here probably for the Saints, but and then you have the Giants, and Jackson Dart just looks like Daniel Jones with a little bit less Walt Jr., and you add a little bit of the kid from Toy Story.
The kid from Toy Story that took apart the toys, or Andy?
That took apart the toys in the first one.
See, I'll accept the Daniel Jones comp, but I feel like he's Jackson. He's essentially Daniel Jones if he had a little bit more aura, because he's a quarterback that I feel like he's got a certain swagger about him, but I don't know if he's going to be an NFL quarterback. I mean, he had 3 turnovers in this game, completed like 60% of his throws. Granted, his receiver core is not the greatest right now. He's kind of relying just on Cam Scattaboo alone, but he's got a lot more. I mean, he's got more flash. The Giants, I don't expect the Giants to be good, but they're going to be fun to watch. And this team is fun to watch. Between him and Cam Scattaboo, you have Danny Bellinger making some plays for them, but Yeah, I mean, what do you? I mean, Giants and Saints. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, and I talked like with the Giants last week, like, well, sure, you won and you beat the Chargers, but you also lost the best player on your team on offense. So I talked about how bad their luck is with the Giants, and this is just how their offense is going to look. And when you don't have Malik Neighbors, this team is just going to struggle to score points because Cam Scatabo is a beast, and he like throws a lot of tough blocks, but he's not a guy that really has those explosive like 50, 60-yard runs as of right now. He's just really good at getting 5-yard runs every time.
Yeah, Kim Scadaboo, somebody put it in the comment section that he is the Rob Gronkowski of running backs. And I kind of like that. I mean, he's got that same like rug and tug beast, um, administering contact type of player. But I mean, the reason why he fell so far is because he's not very fast. I think he ran like a 4.6, which for a running back is really slow. The thing with him is like, if he's going to have runs like that, it's going to be because he refuses to get tackled, less than him just blowing out this explosive play. He's just not that type of guy. That's what you'll get more or less from a Tyrone Tracy. But enough about the Giants. Let's talk about the other New York team, the Jets. They are now 0-5. They weren't on the worst top 5, but they might soon be there. Dak Prescott plays a great game, 4 touchdowns, 237, 127 QBR. Justin Fields plays I guess maybe a decent game, but I just don't get the Jets because it doesn't feel like usually it's their offense that's terrible. And I wasn't high on Justin Fields and I'm still not. But I just like what's missing because they can score points relatively for the most part, but it's just their defense. Their defense is terrible. But yet you have the Sauce Gardners of the world, you have the Quinton Williams of the world. What is missing for the Jets? What am I missing here? Because I see them put up 30 points relatively regularly, it seems like, but yet they're 0-5. So what's going on with the Jets? I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, the Jets are just not a cohesive team. They can't put it together on all three levels where their offense, anytime their offense needs to get points, they're generally not going to come up with it. And at the end of the game, they're either turning it over, like at the end of the Steelers game in week 1, or they're just getting a lot of points at the end of games when they're already getting blown out. Like I felt like this game, they really didn't score too many points when it mattered. So I think some of the Jets putting up points isn't necessarily meaning their offense is elite. It just means that when the game is kind of out of hand, they've come back and then kind of made it look closer than it actually was. They also did that again versus Miami the previous week.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in the third quarter, it was 30-3. So this score is a little deceiving, but the Jets, they just can't piece it together. I think they're due for a win soon, right? They can't go 0-7. I don't think they're 0-17 bad, but they just can't piece it all together. Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's clientele, we don't know. But Jets, you've been warned. You might be on the worst top 5 next week. Just like the Raiders. The Raiders, talk about a blowout. 40-6 for the Colts. Daniel Jones continues on his Cinderella story into October. They are now 4-1, 3-0 at home. Jonathan Taylor with 3 touchdowns in this game. And then Geno Smith, 2 picks, 0 touchdowns. Brock Bowers is out in this game. You have to sacrifice Brock Bowers for Ashton Genty to come alive. And for what? The Raiders are now 1-4. The only win against the Patriots in week 1. They've lost 4 straight. This blowout here. That's all we got to say.
Yeah, just a blowout. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, 3 touchdowns in this game. Michael Pittman, he's still active. He's still playing well. And then Daniel Jones is doing just enough, but it doesn't seem like Daniel Jones doesn't have to do too much. So that's really where this Colts team is thriving because Daniel Jones hasn't really been forced to make a play in a close game, and then you have a game like this where your defense is also playing elite. Seems like at home the Colts have been able to put on overwhelming display versus bad teams, and they're just beating up on teams where they should, especially when you're going up against the Raiders team where I have no idea what we're doing with Geno Smith, and now the alternative 2 would be going back to Aiden O'Connell. but they just let it rip with this guy way too soon, and they're not Astringenti heavy enough where I feel like you really need to try and get Astringenti going in this game first, and you have to start reeling back in Geno Smith like, hey, do you remember why you were terrible with the Jets and how we kind of slowly were able to build you into an NFL quarterback? It's time to get back to the basics with Geno Smith, like how he was in Seattle. And part of that is you can't take a guy like Geno Smith away from DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Zach Charbonnet, and Kenneth Walker, Will Dissly, and then expect him to be the same guy with a rookie running back, a bad offensive line, an injured tight end, and an injured number one wide receiver. Like, it's also that, too. You can't expect to just take Geno Smith out of Seattle with elite weapons where he had 2 number ones at wide receiver, and that still wasn't enough at some points, then just drop him in a bad situation.
Yeah. And now at this point, like, I don't know where they go from here. You mentioned Aiden O'Connell potentially. Maybe they're a team that makes a call for someone like a Russell Wilson or which I don't think would happen. Or I know Kenny Pickett is here as well. Maybe we see a Kenny Pickett sighting soon for them.
Oh,
Maybe
God.
it's a Jameis Winston for the Giants, but ultimately, like this Raiders team, like how long can you keep it with Geno Smith throwing 2 picks a game before you end up just calling it, moving on? Experiment failed.
Yeah, maybe Mac Jones' next destination next year.
Maybe, and maybe without Pete Carroll. So we covered the Raiders, we covered the Saints, the Jets. Let's talk about Dolphins Panthers. This was a game we had circled on our calendars. We're like, please, let's see this game. And it looked for a minute like, oh, maybe the Dolphins are going to win this game, right? They came up 17-0 in the second quarter. Everything looked good, and then they collapsed. They give up. They end up blowing that 17-point lead. The Panthers prevail. They win the game. And then, yeah, I mean, what is there to be said? No Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle doing as best as he can. Devon Achane, 10 rushes for 16 yards. Just couldn't get it done. Panthers and Dolphins. What do we have to say here?
Yeah, I mean, with the Panthers, I picked them to win this game, and when they got down, I'm like, I think they still have a chance. Maybe Miami will fall asleep at the wheel, but we'll see. And then the Panthers come all the way back in this game, and Bryce Young is playing as hard as he can. And you really have to admire Bryce Young because he misses some throws that are open that he should make, but he's trying really hard right now. Dave Canales was able to turn him around, and then the Panthers claw their way all the way back from a 17-point deficit, and then the Dolphins go out there, quick strike to Jalen Waddle. Oh, okay. They're back in this game. Nothing to see here. We'll be able to take care of business versus the Panthers. And then the Panthers, no, in Carolina, at home in front of their fans here, are able to come all the way back versus Miami. And this is a team that just lost 40-6 last week to the Patriots. I mean, I think it was like 40-6, 42-10, something bad. If I don't have the exact score right, I apologize. 42-13, and then you get absolutely demolished. You go back home versus a Miami Dolphins team, and then you're able to come back and beat them in Carolina. And I think this should say a lot about how far the Miami Dolphins have fallen. Then you just see Mike McDaniels walking off the field in complete and utter defeat. The Miami Dolphins are a defeated team, and they might be a team that might actually tank at the end of the year, where they're going to be able to maybe try and move away from Tua if a team wants to take his deal, if they get quarterback needy or they don't like the direction they're going, or, Mike McDaniels is going to be fired at some point during this year because you don't have Tyreek Hill. The defense has been terrible, and there's just not really a lot of hope, and you're in cap hell. And the fact that Darren Waller was the highlight for you in this game should be very concerning, because how many more games do you think Darren Waller is going to play like this? Like, is Darren Waller actually back now? Country music star
turned NFL superstar. You want to talk about a guy? He'll be in my good graces. Brock Bowers is out. I'm like, Darren Waller for the meme. I'm already 1-4. Who cares? I put him in, he gets 20 points. So Darren Waller, he is good in my eyes, but he's 33 years old. The reason why he retired, he had a lot of injuries previously. He hasn't played a full season since 2020. He bounced around. He was out all of last year. But you know what? For a Miami Dolphins team that doesn't look like it's going to get any better for them moving forward, if this is their highlight, I'm here for it. If you're going to be bad, can you at least be funny bad? The fact that Darren Waller is your main receiver right now is hilarious to me. The fact that it went from Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the speed duos, you had Devon Achane, who was ripping up the league for a little bit, and then it's gone from that to our highlight is 33-year-old Darren Waller on the Dolphins. That is what the Dolphins have become. The team that was once 7-4 in lead of the AFC East not too long ago, and now here they are. Fall from grace. I don't even know how many. I think maybe they won 4 games this year at the rate that they're going.
Yeah, if that, and they might lose to the Jets. Is that going to be a game where Miami and the Jets are going to be competing for like a top 5 pick, and Miami is going to be like, hey, brother, if you want to win, go for it, because, you know, Justin Fields is bad. I don't think he's quite as bad as Tua, but you never know how good would Justin Fields have been with prime Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And his mobility, you know, we'll never know how Justin Fields could have looked in that offense. But I think we could see a real situation where Miami's like, you know, if you want to blow a top 5 pick and give it to us just for Aaron Glenn to get his moral victory, feel free, because you're also going to be out of a quarterback next year. So I could see that being a real possibility.
I can see that for sure. Speaking of top quarterbacks, let's talk about this Cardinals and Titans game. If you watched our worst top 5, you already know how I feel about how the Cardinals played. Maybe the funniest, worst game in maybe the history of the NFL for the Cardinals. I mean, between a Kyler Murray fumble where it bounces off of his head, it comes from a Marion DeMarcado run. That's a 71-yard run. Momentum is on the Cardinals side. They're about to go up 28-21. And then he releases the ball right before the end of the end zone. Does not count as a touchdown. They go back. They immediately score. And then it's not like the Titans played amazing in my mind. Like, they came back. That's great. They came up. They were down, I think, 21-6 at one point. They came back and won. But I feel like this is a game where, like, the Titans can't really feel great about their win. But the Cardinals, you want to talk about a team who this entire season, every win they've had has been the worst possible win. Whether it's almost losing to the Panthers or almost losing to the Saints, not pretty. And then they lose to the Niners in predictable fashion. This Titans game is the epitome of the Arizona Cardinals franchise. If the aliens come down from Earth and want to know why the Cardinals are so pathetic, I would show them this game. And then Jonathan Gannon getting into the face of DeMarcado, getting fined by the Cardinals from their head coach. You want to talk about a guy on a hot seat? Immediately,
100 bands too. That's
100
crazy.
bands. You know who's taking the bus next week? Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, who's taking the whammo next week? I mean, golly. And then, so you mentioned a fumble from Kyler Murray off his helmet. You mentioned the touchdown that went out of the end zone and wasn't actually a touchdown from DeMarcado. But you also had maybe the funniest touchdown in NFL history, where you intercept the ball, end up fumbling it, and then the Titans get it in the end zone and recover it. Like,
Looney
you
Tunes
forgot
ass touchdown right there.
the most cartoonish touchdown maybe we've ever seen. And it's just the universe telling the Cardinals, no, stop being a football team right now with Jonathan Gannon. Stop with Kyler Murray. Stop trying there. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., who is just going through a rough patch right now, and he's played well. It just kind of looks a little bit clunky right now. It's not very fine-tuned. And then you have the Titans, who were just dubbed probably the worst team, them and the Saints. And then you talk about the Eagles and the Bills both losing. Well, we had the Saints and then the Titans both winning. But the Cardinals were a team where people were bragging about how good the NFC West was going to be with the Cardinals. And then there were people early on, legitimate pundits in the media, who thought the Cardinals were going to be good going into the season. Like, why would you? It's the same team from last year, and they haven't drafted particularly well either. It's like they're a bad organization at drafting, they're bad organization at hiring coaches. They've had historically bad quarterback play. You mentioned they've only won 40% of their games, and now they have a game where as soon as the ball gets thrown out of the end zone by that player, you think the Titans have a chance, and then you have the most cartoonish touchdown given up in NFL history. And there are so many reasons why you should have won this game, and you literally did everything mathematically possible to lose while still playing kind of well.
The Cardinals are something that should be studied by science in a lab with how that they find ways to lose games. I'm lucky that I am not a Cardinals fan, and I don't know if I ever will be in any capacity. You have Marvin Harrison, who's starting to step up. That's great. Trey McBride's a great tight end, maybe the best tight end in football, arguably. But between the injuries that you have from James Conner, between your team just not being a cohesive unit, not being a well-coached team, being mid on both sides of the ball, having hard times getting first downs with Kyler Murray, like this team's a mess. I don't know how they solve this problem. It's probably trading Kyler in the offseason, but talk about maybe the worst possible loss you can have for an organization, the Cardinals. Although the Ravens, they get blown out by the Texans. Texans, who were once 0-3, are now 2-3 with a better record than that of the Ravens. No Lamar Jackson. Cooper Rush comes in, 3 interceptions. Derrick Henry averaging 2 yards a carry in this game. Nothing getting going. Meanwhile, the Texans dominate, 167 yards on the ground. Nick Chubb had a big game in this game. Big run for C.J. Stroud. Christian Kirk, leading receiver. But Texans, are they back? They have now won two consecutive games, and by a combined score of 70-10 through the last 2 games.
Yeah, and I like they're getting their rookie wide receiver Higgins involved, and then Nick Chubb is starting to find his legs a little bit. He had a touchdown in this game, and he's recovering from a pretty gruesome injury. So I think him being a boost for the Texans, and then you may get Joe Mixon back at some point for this team, and then Nico Collins really had his breakout game this year, and the Texans had a slow start last year, and they turned the switch on where every single team had the Chargers. Rex Ryan said it was going to be a bye to face the Houston Texans. So I do think that the Texans are kind of back, and now the Ravens are almost playing the role of just juicing up any offense that has been struggling, because the Texans had gone through a little bit of a rough patch, and then the previous week the Chiefs finally broke out, and then their offense was able to score over 30 points when they haven't done that too often over the past 2 seasons so far. So like I think the Texans are back, and they've kind of showed that their defense is still elite, and when we get into some of the colder months, that's where this team is going to start to shine.
100%. But Ravens, do you think the Ravens are dead now at 1-4?
Kind of. But the problem is they're dead, but their division's still bad. So like
Yeah.
you're dead, but Aaron Rodgers could also get hurt.
It really depends on Lamar Jackson. If he's healthy, then maybe. But, I mean, their schedule doesn't really get much easier. I mean, they face the Rams next week. They still have to face the Patriots later. They have the Packers, the Steelers twice. There's some losses in this game for sure, and I don't know if they can afford to lose any more games. So, Ravens, I think they're pretty much dead at this point. And then let's move to the undefeated team, the Eagles, losing to the Broncos. Broncos, they get the win. They come back, score 18 points in the fourth quarter, get the win, come down from 17-3, get the dub. Big win for the Broncos. Great defense all around. Gets to the quarterback 6 times in this game. Thoughts on this Eagles-Broncos game?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely a good game for the Broncos, and the Eagles have kind of just hit a point where they were due for the loss, and the Broncos were able to take advantage of it. And the Broncos are a team that had just been teetering kind of in September, survive in September, and we have seen Sean Payton teams kind of start out a little bit slower, and when you have a good coach, you should expect their team to start peaking in November. So it seems like Bo Nix is looking a little bit better so far. They're getting a good feel for how the offense is going to work. And I like that they stayed aggressive, went out there, went for two, ended up getting it, and then that led them to going up four and then taking away the field goal for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Sean Payton's showing he's still aggressive, and I think this is going to be a team where it's kind of the tale of September between the Broncos and the Chargers, where Broncos kind of looked a little shaky out of the gate. Chargers looked like they were going to be the playoff team. Now we're starting to see both those teams like flip.
Switch over. Yeah, I would agree. I like what I saw from the Broncos. I think there's more of the Broncos that I expect to see. I think their offense can reach another level, but getting a win against the Eagles and then their schedule moving up, they face the Jets and the Giants in back-to-back weeks. Those should be wins. So by the time they face the Cowboys in October, a team that I think that'll be a good matchup there. They're already going to be on a winning streak, a 4-game winning streak. So I think the Broncos are gearing up for a good winning streak moving forward. And then let's talk about the Chargers because I don't know if they got off the bus against the Commanders in this game. They come out, they're out 10, and then just flee to fall flat. You lose Amarian Hampton. He's going to be out for 4 games. Your main rushing attack is gone now. Now you have to rely pretty much exclusively on Justin Herbert. And then in the other part, like Jaden Daniels comes back, plays well, starts to shake off the rust a little bit. Their rookie, Krosky Merritt, had a big game, 2 touchdowns in this game. Commanders just kind of dominated throughout this entire game. Outside of the first quarter, it was kind of just the Commanders game in control the entire time.
Yeah, and the Commanders, I mean, they showed some struggle out of the gate, and that's normal. But Jaden Daniels being back definitely helps that offense. And you had a solid run game, but the fact that McCroskey's looking this good, I mean, versus the Chargers, and this is a good defense, especially for them. I get, you have issues on offense, but it's still the same defense for the Chargers. So I think the Commanders are really starting to turn the dial up a little bit, especially with Jaden Daniels being back. And you did this against one of the better defenses in the NFL without Terry McLaurin. He's still sitting on the sideline. So I think that should scare a lot of teams. And then Cliff Kingsbury getting out of those sophomore slump woes as well. It was a tough couple weeks, but it was with Marcus Mariota. It is for the Commanders, it is just a little bit concerning when you see Jaden Daniels still taking these hits. He's still going on a couple runs and taking some contact where you heard even Tom Brady wince and cringe a little bit.
Yeah. If he's going to want to stay healthy throughout this entire season, he's got to get better with taking hits. I mean, he's already missed time this year, which has hurt them negatively in the process, but he's going to have to learn if he's going to want to have the deep run. If he wants to make it back to a conference championship game, you got to get out of bounds, man. You just have to. But Commanders get the win there. And then last 2 games to cover. We'll talk about Bucks and Seahawks. Bucks with yet another fourth quarter comeback. Baker Mayfield, by the way, the top of the MVP race currently, according to all media pundits. Who would have thought? Who would have predicted that? Baker Mayfield now 379, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Rachaad White, without the gas station, still gets it done, gets 2 touchdowns. And then overall, like this was a great match game. This is a game that I hope to see in the playoffs because I feel like these 2 teams matched up really well. Sam Darnold still playing well for the Seahawks, but Bucks come back, get another fourth quarter win. So they get back to winning ways after falling to the Eagles last week.
Yeah, no, you get back to winning ways, and you fell to the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're the former Super Bowl champs. It's one of the tougher teams, and then they did want some get back against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for that bad, ugly playoff loss they had against them previously. So not surprised that they lost to the Eagles, but you were able to go up into a hostile environment without Bucky Irving, still win that game, and then you can win a close, scrappy game versus Houston in Houston. Then you can also win a shootout. And then, I don't know, I mentioned, Baker Mayfield being the dark horse MVP candidate. I was like, he led the league in touchdowns last year. Just throwing it out there, he has had some of the highest passing touchdown seasons so far in the NFL since he's got to Tampa. And then the defense is playing good. Now you have one of the best rookie receivers, if not the best rookie receiver, in Ibuka. And you're able to do this essentially without a run game in Seattle, which they've been playing pretty tough on defense. And they're a team that absolutely had dominated a few teams at home before, and they were seeming like they were going to be a team that was going to run over a lot of people. And then you stood toe to toe with them, undermanned, and you're being able to deal with injuries. And I think that's really where most valuable comes from is, are you able to overcome injuries on offense?
Yeah, and I would say that they answered the call. We had Bucky Irving out in this game, and then with the way that Rashad White was able to bounce back in, you're able to hit on your wide receiver pick with Mbuka, and then you have him, Godwin, and Mike Evans as well, along with Kate Otten. This Bucks team looks legitimate, and I hope to see them continue winning moving forward. And then the last game is the Monday night game, Chiefs and Jags. Jags walked it off on maybe the funniest game-winning touchdown in the history of the NFL. Trevor Lawrence trips over his own feet, gets up, runs into the end zone, 1-yard run. Jags beat the Chiefs, and now they're 4-1. I mean, I didn't believe in the Jags. I've kind of sold my stock after what I saw the last 2 years, but are you more of a believer now in the Jaguars after beating the Chiefs, or is this an October game?
This is a weird team, right? Like, you go
Very
out there, you
strange
beat
team.
the Kansas City Chiefs, but I called them frantic last week, and I kind of stand by that because even though you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, did it look like a smooth, methodical game like Buffalo versus New England, where New England came in, they had a plan, they knew exactly what they were going to do? Or did it look like, oh my God, what is Trevor Lawrence doing where he still jumps over the offensive line and tries to extend the ball when you could easily do the tush push with Trevor Lawrence, especially with how tall he is? He's 6'6", and you can't do the tush push with him. You still have him trying to clear it, and then you fumble there. And then at the end of the game, when you go to win, Trevor Lawrence falls not once but twice. And then after the game, he said, I was horrified in that moment. And if you want to sum up my opinion of the Jaguars last week, I was like, I don't know necessarily what to think of the Jaguars. It just seems frantic. Well, Trevor Lawrence outright admitting, like, yeah, I was kind of frantic out there on the last play. And then you have Brian Thomas Jr., who's kind of been coming and going here. And then you have Travis Hunter, who showed up in this game making some incredible plays. And then it kind of seems frantic as well because how they're handling that whole situation with Travis Hunter. And if I was an NFL head coach, hey, I wouldn't know how to handle this either. I'm not an expert as far as it comes to what to do with Travis Hunter. I kind of like seeing him on offense, and I think the Jaguars could benefit from maybe just focusing on offense with him, and maybe that would kind of calm the tone down. But that kind of contributes to the whole narrative that I had last week about this Jaguars team. Like, even though you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, it was one of the most panic-inducing games I've had, and it's probably the most adrenaline I got actually from watching an NFL game this season because it was so chaotic. Especially, you also have a 99-yard touchdown return on Patrick Mahomes, which is absolutely unheard of.
Yeah, 99-yard pick six, by the way. Yeah, I mean, a win's a win, right? I mean, that's all we can say, right? And the Jags so far, like, they beat the Niners, they beat the Texans, they blew out the Panthers, and they have this big win against the Chiefs. But this is still a team like I can't wrap my arms around because I feel like even in these wins, I'm still not confident that this team is going to win games moving forward. And like their schedule will start to get a little bit easier moving forward. They have the Raiders on their schedule coming up. They have the Cardinals. That should be a win. They face the Seahawks and Rams these next 2 weeks, but I just don't know. I don't know if I can trust Travis Etienne. I don't know if I can trust Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know where he went from last year to this year. And then Trevor Lawrence, I don't trust at all. But if they're winning games, I mean, ultimately, it comes down to wins, losses, and ties in the NFL. And they're 4-1. They have momentum. The rest of the division, the Texans, they started off slow. And then the Titans are obviously the Titans. So, I mean, who else is going to compete with them? The Colts are still red hot as well, but this is a very interesting Jaguars team. Liam Cohen seems to be better than Doug Peterson, but yeah, I don't know where to put myself with the Jaguars quite yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. But I mean, they have beaten a lot of good teams. I mean, the 49ers were solid against the Rams in LA. The Texans have been coming on this week. And then you beat the Kansas City Chiefs as well. The Panthers have had their moments. So I think you've had good wins for the Jaguars.
Yeah, they've had good wins. I just, can we trust them moving forward? That's the question that we'll have to see in week 6, because we have now recapped all of week 5. You are up to speed. Now, as you're placing your parlays for week 6, let's check in. What will be our predictions here? Bye weeks for the Vikings and Texans. They are off, taking some rest. But we start on Thursday. Eagles and Giants. Eagles are favored at 6.5, coming off of a loss. I'll get the official stat of Nick Sirianni, but Eagles coming off of a loss. I know their record is good. Eagles versus the White Boys of New York. Give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, I think this is a bounce back game. The Giants had their moments, but the Eagles have dominated the Giants over the past few seasons. We all remember that horrific playoff game in the divisional round that the Eagles had against them. And now you are coming off a loss against the New Orleans Saints, and you're going to beat Philadelphia, and they're going to go on a 2-game skid. I don't think so.
Yeah, I like the Eagles in this game as well. We'll see what Jackson Dart can do, but with that front seven with the Eagles, good luck. Cam Scadaboo will be praying for him. Hopefully, there's some moves there, but yeah, this is a giant, easy Eagles win. Then, speaking of easy wins, here we got Patriots and Saints at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Patriots are favorited at 3.5 against the Saints on the road. For me, I mean, we've talked about spreads before, but 3.5 for the Patriots on the road, I feel like should be higher. After what we just saw them do with Buffalo, if they can do what they did to Buffalo, but to the Saints, and maybe you aren't giving the ball to Ramondre Stevenson, and their defense can be as good as they are, I like the Patriots to cover, and I think this is going to be a blowout. I mean, 30-14 is my guess.
Yeah, 30-14. It could be a blowout. This is one I think the Patriots should win it. But you just had a really big game against the Carolina Panthers, and then you just beat the Bills on Sunday Night Football, which is a huge morale boost. So I think this is a really good test to see where the New England Patriots are as far as the team right now. Where can you continue that momentum forward? So I actually think this is a really important game for them. I think they'll win it. I don't know if they'll dominate front to back, though.
Yeah, it'll be a good sight to see. And then we have another London game, Broncos and Jets. Jets looking for their first win. Broncos are favored at 3.5 in London. Maybe this is where the Jets get their win, right? It's in London. These bad teams, international games can be weird. I'm going to go on a hunch and say that the Jets maybe get their first win against the Broncos. You just had them beat the Eagles in a convincing fashion, but I don't know. I have empathy for the Jets. Maybe the Jets can get the win here. Over under of 43.5, I would take the over here, but London games are weird. International games, something feels weird in the air. I'm going to take the Jets.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't do it. I can't take the Jets. I mean, you had maybe like an upset radar with the Cowboys and Jets last week, but I have to go with the Broncos. You just went out there, beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was kind of a grind still offensively. So I think this is actually a chance for the Broncos offense to really pick it up here. But these overseas games have felt weird. It definitely doesn't feel like the same as American football. I don't think they've been like as high scoring. It's all been like low 20s. So if we're going situational football, shoot me, but I'll take Sean Payton over Aaron Glenn.
Wow, that is a hot take to many. London game, we go back to America, where we belong. Colts, Cardinals. And, if I was the Cardinals, I would be wearing my flak jackets in this game. You don't know if there is a rogue man with a knife somewhere near a quarterback. So Colts, Cardinals. Colts are favored at 6.5. I will never pick the Cardinals again for winning a football game this year. for obvious reasons. Colts are favored at 6.5. I like that spread. Indiana Jones, Jonathan Taylor, we like that. Cardinals, they don't deserve to be talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it went from I'll never pick Daniel Jones again to I'm rocking with Indiana Jones. I like that versus the Cardinals. And that is how far the Cardinals have fallen, where Daniel Jones beating them, that's an absolute luck. And if you had a chance of being somewhat competitive, you could argue for situational football like the Rams game, but the Raiders were absolutely abysmal. And now the Cardinals, how do you recover off of your coach getting fined for getting in a altercation with a player on the sideline? They're like, actually, we're gonna fine you $100,000 for probably rightfully chewing him out. I mean, if I was him, I would cut him the very next day if I could have. And now you're gonna come back. We're all gonna be united against the Colts, who have been dominating after our coach just got fined. So the ownership is kind of slapping him on the wrist, like, okay, you lost the team in that moment.
100%. Yeah, the Cardinals are a lost cause. Meanwhile, the Colts, they've played well defensively. They've moved the ball. Jonathan Taylor is back to being an all-pro running back, so this is an obvious Colts pick. Then Chargers and Dolphins. Chargers are favored at 4.5. Lost to the Commanders this past week. Dolphins, third worst team according to the Brickyard. I will not be picking them to lose to the Chargers, but this is going to be an interesting game. I'll pick the Chargers to win in this game. They're favored at 4.5. Yeah, I'd like to say the Chargers could beat the Dolphins, but yet again, who knows?
Where is
at this
this?
point? This is in Miami.
I will take the Dolphins in this one. Well, they did have a tough game versus the Carolina Panthers. I think Jalen Waddle and Tua have been getting on the same page, and the fact that Jalen Waddle has been the de facto number one, starting to make some pretty big plays here. And I think the Chargers are in a situation where now you're out not one, not two, but you have three injured starting tackles for you, where your tackle gets injured 2 weeks ago, and then this week his replacement ends up getting injured in that game. So I think Miami will actually be able to do enough to get the upset at home. So believe it or not, I'm going to pick Miami.
All right. Well, if they do so, they might be graduating from the worst top 5 for at least 1 week.
It
But
happens.
We love redemption on this show. Big redemption, guys. As you know, I mean, what are we seeing with Darren Waller? Redemption. Country star turned superstar. We love to see it. Then we go to Browns and Steelers, 1 o'clock slate. Dylan Gabriel, Aaron Rodgers. You like that. We love it. Steelers are favored at 5.5. Following this, I believe the Steelers are coming off a bye, so they're rested. Aaron Rodgers against the Browns. I'm going to pick the Steelers in this game. I just haven't seen enough from the Browns yet to put my arms around them. And the Steelers, I think, are the best team in that division currently.
Yeah, I will roll with the Steelers in this one. You have an old man off of a bye, and you have an older defense finally that got a chance to get some rest here. The Cleveland Browns are coming all the way back from London, and they have to play in this game. I mean, that's pretty tough for them. So I will go with the Steelers in this one.
All right. And then we have Cowboys and Panthers. Cowboys favored at 3.5 on the road. Dak's played great so far this year, 10 touchdowns. I think he leads the league in passing yards currently. And then the Panthers coming off of a big win against the Dolphins. I really liked what I've seen from the Cowboys offense. Their defense I can't speak very highly of, but they're fun to watch. We love George Pickens in this game. Javonte Williams has been good for them as well. And then Dak's playing at a high level. We'll take the Cowboys to beat the Panthers.
Yeah, so it's weird because the Cowboys have looked good the past 2 weeks, but they haven't been too good at home historically over the past few years. And we have a revenge game in Dallas, where Rico Dowdle is returning back to Dallas after getting 206 yards, and he has a chance to go on a generational Jeremy Lin type run and get himself a massive bag. So I think he's going to follow up his massive performance versus Miami. in Dallas, give the hometown crowd a little bit of a show the Dallas Cowboys what they're missing a little bit. And I think the Cowboys, they've had a really good week versus the Packers. You dominate the Jets, but I do still think the Panthers are better than the Jets. They have potential, and they got a little bit of momentum, especially coming back down 17. That's a big mental boost for a young team here. So I think the Panthers can capitalize.
It's definitely not impossible. Yeah, Cowboys defense is terrible. The Panthers, they got momentum right now, and they've played. I mean, they're 2-3, but they've had some games that they've might have missed opportunities on. So I don't hate that vision. So we got the Panthers in that. And then we move to Jaguars and Seahawks. Jags are at home, favored at 1.5. Seahawks with the slight edge, given home field advantage. Sam Darnold in this game, but my early pickings, I mean, the Jags did beat the Chiefs. I feel like this is a game that they got hyped up for. For the Seahawks, I think that they should come in, get the job done, get the win against the Jags. Jags coming off of a big win against the Chiefs. I just don't know if they'll come out firing quite to that level, so I will take the Seahawks.
Yeah, we have the battle of the rookie head coaches in this game. And then we also have the battle of what happens when one team loses a close one possession game in the final minute. What happens when a team wins a close one possession game in the final minute and then they face the very next week? So I think this will be a good matchup, but early on, I'm going to go with Seattle just because they're at home. And then I think that game versus Tampa was tough. And then the Jaguars, they did win that game versus the Chiefs, but it's a little bit chaotic. And I think they're due for a loss like once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think the Seahawks are overall a better team from what I've seen. I like their defense a little bit more, but we shall see. And then the last of the 1 o'clock slates, Rams and Ravens. We don't know the status of Lamar Jackson. Rams are favored at 7.5. If Cooper Rush is starting, this is an easy Rams pick. If Lamar is starting, I think I still pick the Rams in this game. The Rams defense, we like what we've seen from Jared Verse in this season. Matt Stafford is playing at a high level as well. We'll take the Rams to cover, especially if Cooper Rush is starting.
Yeah, especially if Cooper Rush is starting, but there's about $163 million not starting on the Baltimore Ravens cap right now. And a lot of it is on defense, and then a big chunk of that is Lamar Jackson's contract. But with the Ravens, you look at the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, how long can that streak go on for? Do they actually believe it can keep going? And then the Browns and the Bengals. So this is a team that can actually take their time with Lamar Jackson a little bit. And I don't think they need to rush him back. So I think the Rams will end up winning this one because we're probably going to see Cooper Rush again and, Matthew Stafford going up against the team with virtually no defense. If that's what CJ Stroud and the Texans can do against the Ravens, what is Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams going to do?
Yeah, seriously. And Matt Stafford, I believe, is the number one passing yards leader. He had a great game last week, so it's going to be a bloodbath for the Ravens potentially. I will say, for betting people, over under a 44.5 for the Ravens and Rams, and they have not allowed less than 37 so far. So that seems like a pretty easy over in my mind. But I digress. 4 o'clock slate. We have Raiders and Titans, the game that we've all been waiting for. Raiders are favored at 4.5, and this doesn't matter. Do we need to pick a game? Do we need to pick a winner for this game? I mean, really? I mean, these two teams, like, doesn't matter. Does anybody care? Does it? Can we talk about Mark Sanchez instead, or like, who cares? It's Titans Raiders.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's Titans Raiders. You know, it could end up being a really good game though, like the Saints and the Giants was. And the Titans and Cardinals. So, do people care about these two teams? No, but could it be really entertaining? Maybe, yeah. If we get a good game from Tony Pollard, I'll be happy.
I'll take the Titans. Maybe the Titans get back-to-back wins. Two franchises, right? The Cardinals are poverty. The Raiders are poverty. Titans beat poverty franchises. I'll take the Titans. Maybe the Titans string together some wins. Start to piece it together.
If you lose back-to-back games to the AFC South, you're trash.
Yeah, for sure. And especially if Gino keeps throwing picks the way he does, I just don't see how they pull it out.
It's like he's trying to set a record too with the interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, 9 picks through 5 games. You're on track for 30, and it just gets uglier by the minute. And they're not even utilizing Ashton Genty the way they should. So yeah, I would rather support the Titans in this game than the Raiders. But a game that could be fun. Packers and Bengals. Packers are favored at 14 and a half, coming off of a bye. And we get the premiere of Joe Flacco in Cincinnati. This will be fun, at least for that. Legend of the game, Joe Flacco. Over under 14 and a half for the Packers. I mean, coming off of a tie to the Cowboys, um, I think the Packers obviously should win this game. But I think maybe the Bengals have some life, right? Jake Browning's not their quarterback. Maybe Joe Flacco can give them somewhat of a spark, but just the way their offense has looked over the last 3 weeks, I'll take the Packers.
Yeah, I'll take the Packers too, especially off of a bye. And this is going to be a team that's going to need to really ramp it up going through the season, especially of that ugly Sunday night tie that's been dwelling on this team's mind an entire bye week. You have to think about heading into the bye week with not a win, not a loss where you can kind of consider, but a tie. So I think the Packers have had that on their mind, especially with the Bengals not really looking like an actual team. So I will take Green Bay in this one.
All right. And then the last of the 4 o'clock slates, we have Niners and Bucks, both 4-1. Bucks are at home. They are favored at 2.5. And I just feel like the Bucks are a team of destiny, right? They keep coming back with this fourth quarter comebacks. Baker Mayfield, the leader of the MVP race. I like what I've seen from Mac Jones, but I feel like the Niners are just a little too banged up. Bucks are gathering momentum, so I will take them to cover in this game, and I think it should be close overall, but I will take the Bucks to prevail.
Yeah, I'll take the Bucks in this one too. It probably should be another close game. Niners defense has been stepping up, making some pretty big plays like they did versus the Rams, forcing some turnovers. But I do think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are kind of on a magical run right now, so I think that continues.
Beautiful. Then we go to Sunday night, and we got ourselves a beauty for Sunday night. We got Lions and Chiefs in Arrowhead. Spread right now, Chiefs are favored at 2.5 at home. Matchup predictors say there's a 55% chance the Chiefs pull out a win in this game. But I just think the Lions, their offense has been affecting on a high level. Their defense has played very well. The Chiefs, while I don't think they've played poorly necessarily, just doesn't look like the same Chiefs team in my mind. I like the Lions in this game. I like Jared Goff. I like Amon Ra. All of these players involved. Give me the Lions to win this game.
Yeah, it's like, look, man, I get there's prime time Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs, even if they lose this game, they'll only be down like 2 games in their division, and I think they still get to play Denver twice, who looks like is going to be their main opponent. So you can afford to drop this game actually, and this is a team that has struggled to score over 30 points, even in a high scoring game last night. Without the interception from Patrick Mahomes, you get 35. Well, the Lions have already scored the most points in their history so far this season in the first 5 weeks. And it seems like they've been scoring points effortlessly. And then you have Jared Goff, who's not only beat Patrick Mahomes once in maybe the greatest NFL regular season game ever that was played in Mexico when they dropped
That's
54
true.
points, or then you also have him beating him on opening night 20-17. So I think Jared Goff can do it again. It just seems like the Lions are a better team right now, and I can't see the Chiefs keeping up offensively. I think Jared Goff would really have to have one of those games where he throws not even 2, but like 3 interceptions for them to lose.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Lions, much better unit at this point, so I will take them to win as well. And then they did it again, man. 2 Monday night games. Why? I don't know. But at least these games are a little bit more exciting here. Bills and Falcons. Bills are favored at 3.5 in Mercedes Bank. I'd like to think the Bills, coming off of a loss, should win this game. I'll take Buffalo. Not super impressed with what I've seen from the Falcons so far. Falcons coming off of a bye. Bills Falcons. Do you feel any differently about that game?
Yeah, I think the Bills should win this game. I mean, you're coming off a loss on Sunday Night Football, going back on Monday night. But if you lose this game to the Falcons, there's going to be a real problem because it's one thing losing to a divisional rival, but losing to Atlanta on another primetime game for Josh Allen, like, okay, I think we'd start to see a pattern here with the Bills.
Yeah, if they lose, I'm panicked. I know that they're 4-2, but as far as like Super Bowl favorites, I'm gonna shake them off at that point. But Bill should win this game. And then Bears Commanders. Commanders are favored at 4.5. Bears coming off of a bye, 2-2. And I mean, what have we seen from the Bears most recently? Let's look at how they've been. They've won the last two games. They beat the Cowboys pretty handsomely. And then the Raiders game, they scraped out a win. So Bears are starting to piece it together. That being said, I like Jaden Daniels more. I like their coaching more. And I think the Commanders favored at 4.5. Maybe that's a little high, but I think Commanders will pull out the win.
Yeah, Commanders should win it, and the Cowboys are kind of figuring it out against the Bears, and that was a tough situation for them, especially losing CeeDee Lamb, kind of trying to put the team back together and regather. And then the fact that the game versus the Raiders was so close, like it was a really competitive, tight game versus the Raiders. That was kind of Ashton Genty's breakout game, and you barely beat them. That doesn't bode well for a Washington Commanders team that has played well in the biggest moments on prime time, and then they just went out there and pretty much ended the Chargers season and confirmed that it's pretty much a wrap for the Chargers this year. And now they're going to go up against the Bears following that on Monday Night Football. It just feels like the Commanders are about to take it up to a whole new level.
Yeah, I would agree. And now we've been previewed for all of week 6. We recapped week 5. We've talked about the worst and the best. But now, the remainder of the show, right? We have reacting what ChatGPT says is the worst first date spots, what we've been watching. And then, have you been following what's been going on with Mark Sanchez?
Kind of. It's like weird because I think like most people, I just saw the headline that Mark Sanchez got stabbed. And I'm like, oh my God. Like Mark Sanchez got mugged in Indianapolis. And then a headline later I see Mark Sanchez is being charged by the police in Indianapolis. I'm like, wait a minute. You got stabbed and you're the one who got charged? Like, I just saw you on TV interviewing Baker Mayfield, and then the very next night you're getting stabbed and you're not actually the victim.
From the sounds of it so far, he was very intoxicated. He'd flown into Indy, was at his hotel, had a few drinks at a local bar, and then he's asking this truck driver to move his car. This truck driver, by the way, is 69 years old. And then he gets into the car, starts jerking the wheel. The guy and him, he sprays him with pepper spray. That being the victim in this case, this truck driver, apparently. Perry Toll is his name, apparently.
Is it a semi
Um,
truck or just like a pickup truck?
it doesn't specify, but it was a truck that was in some sort of parking space, and Sanchez was not happy about it. According to court documents, Sanchez is accused of entering the driver's vehicle without permission and pushing the man. The driver claims he acted in self-defense using pepper spray and later a knife. I just don't know. Have you ever seen a scenario where somebody gets stabbed and goes to jail for being stabbed? Like, I understand maybe there's more to the story, but this man is potentially serving 1 to 6 years in prison for getting stabbed. And I don't know if this is like a Jets curse, because I know the Jets are cursed. We already know how the team is. But a former Jets player gets stabbed, goes to prison.
The butt fumbler, too.
Yeah, and that's not a good name to go to prison with. I'm sorry. And it looks like Mark Sanchez is recovering and everything's fine in that case. But we want to talk about a guy that previously was interviewing Baker Mayfield and doing these interviews with Fox, was regularly on Colin Cowherd's show, and then now he's going to prison potentially because he got stabbed in Indianapolis, intoxicated. Like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Mark. Prayer for Mark wherever he is. I hope he recovers and rebounds. Hopefully.
It just makes me think of that scene from Breaking Bad where this is my private domicile and I will not be harassed. When they're
Yeah.
trying to like go into like Jesse's camper, and it's true. Like if you go into someone's car, like hey, some people live out of their car. If it's like a truck driver, he could have been like sleeping there, and then he's trying to grab the wheel. So it's like you're entering in this guy's private domicile. So yeah, that's definitely not a good look. So hopefully that situation works out for Mark Sanchez, and he's probably just gonna get probation, maybe 6 months. But I don't think like 1 to 6 years would happen since
Yeah, I
he
don't think so
wasn't.
either. It seems like the stories are conflicting, so we'll keep you guys updated with as far as what happens next. But I think the arc of him going to prison would be insane, to be honest. But I don't know the full story, so maybe that'll change.
He should be able to settle it outside of court. Like give that guy enough money. You have like a
Yeah,
couple hundred grand, maybe even 1 million.
yeah, one would think. But we've been recapped there, and then ChatGPT, right? We react to these lists now. You have in front of you the worst first dates according to ChatGPT.
Yeah, I have the worst dates according to ChatGPT, and kind of cooked on this one because at number 5 we have a ex's favorite hangout spot. Why it's
Ooh,
bad? Nothing ruins a vibe faster than running into emotional baggage. Bonus cringe. Your date is asking, so is that them?
oof. So number 5, them going to their ex's hangout spot. Yeah, this is not a good start to a first date. You want to build rapport with these people. You want to see if you guys hit it off. And going essentially to where you shit last, that's just not a good way to start any sort of romance. So number 5, I respect it so far.
Yeah, I don't know why that isn't number 1. Like, why in any way is that a good idea? Like, that's so bad it doesn't even deserve a spot on the list. It deserves its own banner.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now I'm interested to see what remains. What's next on this list?
And then at number 4, we have the gym. Why? Sweat, grunting, awkward eye contact in the mirrors, bonus cringe. One of you benches while the other one wonders why this is happening.
Yeah, I think this should be lower than that of the other one that we mentioned. But yeah, first date, like maybe if it's your gym crush, hey, let's work out together. Maybe that's the only time it works. But if you match with a girl on Tinder or Bumble and you're like, let's go to the gym, that'll be our first date. What are we doing? It's just not going to work. You're going to be sweating. You guys are going to be gross. Like, it's just, when you're going to meet with somebody, you want to talk to them, break the ice at the gym, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the fact that it's like your first date, like outside of like going to the beach, like the gym, you're also like basically half naked too.
Yeah,
And like,
it's just not a good place to catch a vibe with anybody, especially if you're lifting. Like they're gonna do cardio or they're gonna do legs, or you're gonna go bench. Like it just doesn't set the tone very well.
yeah, and I feel like most gym dates are just guys asking girls, and then some of the girls that just don't know how to say no or feel bad saying no. So now they're kind of just stuck on this awkward gym date they already don't want to be on.
Yeah, I just there's so many other spots. Whether it's a coffee date, you go to an arcade. There's way better options than going to the gym.
Right. And then at number 3, the movies. Why it's bad, you sit in silence for 2 hours, zero chance of actually talking or to connect. Bonus cringe picking a horror movie and realizing your date hates gore.
Yeah, I would say that's a bad first date because you can't talk to them. I think a movie date is a fine date, maybe for like date 3, or after you guys have already, you know, exchanged your primal urges together. But I just, for a first date, yeah, this is just, you're not going to talk to each other. Maybe if there's a dinner after, like dinner and a movie, maybe, but it's just not a good start.
Yeah, it's like okay. It's like I feel like that's like a high school date though, where like you have nowhere else to go really. It's like you walk around the park or your parents. It's the only place your parents will drop you off.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't think that's the worst first date, but it's definitely not the best. It's certainly belonging on a list like this. But number 3, like some of the other ones we've mentioned are worse. So I think there's worse than a movie date, especially dinner
Yeah, I
and
think
movie.
like the movies is fine at like 5 compared to like the ex's hangout.
Yeah, I think the exes hangout is the one that deserves to be higher so far.
Unless it's like the only place within 100 miles, and that's the only saloon. But
Yeah.
and then at number 2, we have the fast food drive-through. Why it's bad, it should be pretty self-explanatory, but nothing says romance like yelling your order over a static and handing over a soggy fry. Bonus cringe, you want to split the combo.
You know, I actually think there's worse than this. I think ChatGPT can do better. It depends on what you're wanting out of this. If you're trying to find long lasting love, you guys go to Taco Bell and you guys get a box together. You guys split the cinnamon twist together. Like there could be some real romance there. You know, I think
The
there's
first
love in
date,
the
though.
air. Maybe in the what?
The first date, though.
I mean, it's it's certainly not a great first impression, especially like women today. Like they don't want you to go to Taco Bell with them or fucking McDonald's. But you know, if it's a girl that likes to ball on a budget and she's okay with it, and you don't want to spend a lot because maybe you don't know how the date goes, there could be worse. I mean, it's definitely It's definitely not a great date, but there could be worse. I think there's worse offenses.
Yeah, so if you want to go through a drive-through, go to Sonic. Then
Yeah.
someone will bring you your food on a rollerblade. And then at number 1, I think this is probably my favorite too. Family gatherings. Why it's bad. You're introducing them to your Aunt Carol before you even know their middle name. Bonus cringe. So how long have you two been dating? It's been 37 minutes.
Yeah. This is the worst. Like you don't meet family until like maybe a few months, maybe even as long as a year, depending on your relationship, and just immediately thrusting them into your crazy family because everyone has crazy family. And it's a nightmare. It's an immediate red flag for the person receiving this date. And yeah, nobody wants to meet your family first date. That's just a nightmare.
Yeah, but that was number 1. So anything you would add to that, or do you think that's a pretty strong top 5?
I feel like another one that could be bad is like going to the batting cages and then just watching you on the batting cages, just practicing your swing. Maybe one day you go pro. Um, there's probably more examples, but I feel like anything that like, and I honestly think another one is bowling. I think bowling is a terrible date because you're just constantly getting up and like not actually talking to each other. And the only time a bowling
Yeah.
date is successful is if you guys aren't bowling, which like, what's the point? So like bowling, I think is another bad first date, and
Who is still
I've had.
bowling? Like
I
we
just
have mini golf now. We can stop bowling. Like as soon as mini golf like came along, and then like everyone, when we don't know what to do, like, oh, let's all go bowling, and then we'll rent shoes that 200 other people, maybe more, have stuffed their feet in, and then we're touching these balls that haven't been cleaned in who knows how long, that's going up against these wood floors to knock over some pins. Like, can we stop bowling at this point? Like, I think bowling has had its era, and it's kind of like the modern day disco at this point. Like, just let it die.
Yeah, I can agree. Like nobody is excited to go bowling. Like if you told me like, "Hey, let's go bowling," I'm like, "Okay." I
We're
can't
all
think of
fine
anything
with it.
else to do. Yeah, bowling is something that you only do when you don't know what to do. And even then like it's not as cheap as you would think it would be. It's still going to cost you like for this particular date, it's going to cost you like probably $40 still. And then yeah, you're constantly just getting up and not talking to each other. Like there's no real connection there. And then bowling itself is just lame. Like if I'm gonna bowl, you know where I go? I go to Wii Sports. Wii Sports bowling is everything that you would want in bowling, but you could do it in your living room. Like just get a Wii if you're gonna go bowling. It'll cost the same pretty quickly. So yeah, just get a Wii.
It's like the part two that gets me is like renting these super old shoes that have been used by how many people before? when we're
Since the
going
fucking
bowling.
80s. Since the
Yeah.
80s too. Yeah. It's disgusting. The balls are dirty. And then you're just surrounded by old people because old people are the ones that are bowling, keeping the bowling alleys alive or the bowling leagues. And if you're on a date, like I've been before on a bowling date before, and there's a bowling league going on, oh, good luck. Those guys treat that shit like the fucking Super Bowl every week. Every Thursday, you got fucking Randy there going hardcore on the pins, like as if this is gonna be his big break. Like, no, it's terrible. Bowling is not. We're
Yeah.
not a fan of bowling.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was playing cornhole, like, or playing cornhole, and then these two guys who like are in a cornhole league walk up and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, these cornhole boards aren't in regulation distance." Then they like separate them, and then they're like, "Yeah, we'll have like the two people who aren't in a league on a team, and then we're just gonna sweep you guys in like 2 turns." Like, great. Like cornhole's another one that's like kind of fun, but people also take it super seriously.
Yeah, cornhole. I feel like cornhole people are typically people who drink IPAs regularly. I feel like it's an alcoholic sport, and maybe that's prejudice to say, but I think it's true. I feel like
It
most of the
makes you
time, if you're
feel
going to,
like you're doing something productive, but you're just throwing a sack at a hole.
yeah, I mean, you think it's exercise, but you're just throwing a sack that's like maybe a pound. It's just not. Just don't. We don't want to do it.
Yeah. Did you have any old boomers like come up to you like, "Oh, you're on like a first date, huh? Let me help you with your form."
Yeah, well, I mean, last time I went bowling on a date was actually relatively recently, and I got caught up in like the person said 35 or whatever lane it was, and I went to the lane next to it, and there's some fucking jabron in a bowling league. He's like, "Yeah, that's not your lane." I'm like, "Okay, maybe." I mean, I thought he said 30. He's like, "Nope, it's not 34." I'm like, "Okay, sorry, I fucking exist, you fucking asshole." So that's bowling for you. Bowling people fucking suck.
That's crazy. My grandma was actually in a bowling league, but I mean, I'm 24 and she was like 102 when she died. So it makes sense that she was in a bowling league and she actually had a lot of trophies. So it runs in the blood, like it's in the bloodline, but I don't know. I just never picked it up.
Yeah, don't. You don't need to. There's so many other things to do nowadays. Don't get into bowling. It's not worth it. But speaking of entertainment, um, what have we been watching recently? As you could probably tell with my sniffling, I've been sick for like a week now. It's probably COVID. I could be dying. This could be the last show we ever do. You know how those lab viruses can be. But I called out of work on Friday. Was very sick, and we've talked about this on the show before. But everybody, I feel like, always underestimates what NyQuil can do to you. Because I got some adult vitamins and I got some NyQuil and I got some ice cream. I got everything. I'm like, I'm gonna just binge. I'm gonna watch some movies today, have some NyQuil, be sick, and just kind of exist. Get those drinkable soups, by the way. We know about drinkable
Hmm,
soups, don't we? That shit.
yeah.
You want to talk? Sometimes getting sick is exciting. For me, it's like, oh shit, I get to have some fucking cough drops. I get to have some fucking ice cream. I get to have some NyQuil. I'm going to be faded. I'm Travis Scott. I'm Future. I'm fucking Young Thug. Let's go. We're sipping lean. And then so what I was watching, and I couldn't tell you a lick about this movie, but Daft Punk, they've had a resurgence recently. They did the soundtrack for Tron Legacy, and I got my haircut recently, and I saw them playing Tron. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this movie since probably it came out. Couldn't tell you anything about the movie at all. I have no idea what happens. In the middle, that's probably 20 minutes in, and I get the fucking Future song in my head just start coming in, and I just lean back. I wake up, and I'm just in the middle of some fucking technological grid game movie thing from Disney. So that was like, I mean, I saw other movies, but I feel like just being sick, having my lean in me, just watching Tron, that's what I've been watching. And if you ever want to watch Tron, it's probably better on lean than it is on normal substances.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like one of those movies that they just have like the red flash over like every single frame. So it seems like a movie that Zack Snyder should direct in the future when the franchise is super dead. Like, does Tron have a big cult following? Like, I don't understand
No.
why they're still making these movies. And then we have the other one coming out this month with Jared Leto. And why would you try and bring it back with Jared Leto? Also, that's the only Tron movie that doesn't have like a poster with like a guy and a girl on it. Instead, they just have Jared Leto on it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like nobody cares about Tron. Like I feel like Tron is like essentially Disney's way of trying to make like either like a Ready Player One or like a Blade Runner type movie, but they failed. They failed in the 80s. That movie bombed. And then they brought it back in the 2010s. They're like, "Oh, maybe if we make Daft Punk the soundtrack, maybe then it'll be successful." Nope, wasn't successful then. And then now they're like, "You know what we need? A guy that not a lot of people like, Jared Leto. Let's make him." And then you know who's really popular right now? 9 Inch Nails, right? Because we talked about 9 Inch Nails post 2004. Let's do that. Let's bring back all these old characters. Jeff Bridges is coming back. You got the great Evan Peters. You got Hassan Minhaj in there. Like, congrats. You brought the boys back. Let's see if they're successful. But I just don't get why you make this movie. It's like who wants nobody wants this movie. And they spent like $200 million on this movie. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure who it's for, and it just seems like one of those movies that they're making so they don't lose the IP. So they think that making the movie and losing money on it is better than it going to another studio. But you say they're trying to make like a Blade Runner, that sort of movie for Disney, but when I see Tron, for some reason I just think of RoboCop.
Yeah.
Like RoboCop is the first thing, and I think it's probably like the red light that comes to mind. Like there's like the modern RoboCop look from the movie that came out in I think it was 2013 or something. Like it just looks like a movie made for Netflix that
Yeah.
has a CW script on it. It just doesn't look that good.
Yeah. And the funny part is I'm looking at the box office for all these movies. The first movie was a financial disappointment. It was $20 million budget. It got them 70 million back. So they didn't lose money, but they didn't make money either. The Tron Legacy movie was more of a success, but it was a $200 million budget. They got 400 million back. So they probably broke even. So this is a franchise that like nobody goes to the movies to see, but yet they keep making them. I just don't get it. I will not be in attendance for the Jared Leto Tron movie. In fact, the reason why I watch this is because I'm like, I don't know why they made that movie. Won't be watching that, but let me check out this Daft Punk soundtrack Tron movie. I figured with lean and edibles that it would be great. I don't remember anything about this movie. And I feel like even if I wasn't on lean, I wouldn't remember it anyways.
Yeah, it just does not seem or look memorable. I have not seen a Tron movie though, so if you're a Tron fan, please let me know why in the comments. Let the Brickyard know why are you a Tron fan. I don't get it, so I need someone to enlighten me, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think you're missing much. But what have you watched the last week or so?
Yeah, so I watched probably one of the most cursed movies ever made just with the making of it and what happened on set. But I watched the 1994 rendition of The Crow. Um,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've seen that movie, but
Not
this
really.
is just one of those 90s movies that you watch it and you realize why modern day movies just can't replicate it. The cinema on it is just chaotic, and there's just these funny, random, awkward moments in it where there's one scene where he is sneaking up on a police officer and he's in his house because he wants to talk to him. And then the scene opens with a guy he's trying to talk to in his underwear, a tank top, and he's still wearing his police hat. And he just like pops out of the corner and he's like, "You're wearing your hat still." And the guy takes it off. Like, oh, it's just like weird random stuff happening in the movie like that. And essentially the story is they kill him and his wife, throw him out the window, and then to avenge her, he gets brought back to life a year from that anniversary, and he's tracking down all of the people that essentially killed him and his wife, and he has healing abilities in this one. So it's like a good revenge movie, it has like a good like grungy like kind of punk, like heavier punk track in this one too. And then he's also like a former band member. But like for a 90s movies, it's just one of those movies where it's like, I have no idea how they made this or like came up with it. And just like there's a certain look about those movies where I just don't think you can ever like recapture the same magic today.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, The Crow is like an infamous, maybe not infamous, but it's like an iconic type of movie simply for the fact that Brandon Lee died in the shooting of it, and they still
Yeah,
released it, and then it's kind of become a cult classic ever since. And apparently they're trying to reboot it now too. Apparently,
they
but
have been for a while.
they still make. I didn't realize they made a bunch of reboots, but um, yeah, it's like one of those movies that's a cult classic, and I feel like it's a movie you probably should watch. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'll probably rewatch it soon. But I remember really liking it when I first saw it, but it's definitely it has like a certain gritty um, production to it, which I like. Which I feel like that's kind of like the what the '90s kind of had going for it is making those movies kind of like it's even like Pulp Fiction had this kind of gritty aspect to it. I don't even know how to describe it, but a little bit more of like a grittier production to it. And the soundtrack was also good. I remember from The Crow.
Yeah, soundtrack was good, and then yeah, it just feels kind of like Gotham in this one, where it's just like a grittier setting. It's supposed to take place in Detroit. They actually filmed it in North Carolina,
Hmm.
so that was interesting. But yeah, it's crazy like that this guy died. And watching the movie, you can't tell because it seems like they're not aiming any of the guns in this movie. Like they just will pan to like the pistol, and then they'll show like a flash, like
Hmm.
visual effect on the gun, but it never looks like they're ever aiming a gun at anyone. So that kind of had to be a freak accident.
Yeah, it's kind of relatively reminiscent of like the from what I know about the Alec Baldwin thing, where like the gun shot off mistakenly, allegedly. But yeah, they were filming the movie and then he got shot, he died. But it seems apparently, according to Wikipedia, he had shot like most of his scenes already, and all the other ones were just basically cuts from the other one, like the rest of the scenes. So they had all of his scenes done when he died, and then they just ended up releasing it afterwards.
Hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah,
definitely like a good like intro to like the Halloween movies. Like wanted something that was kind of on that vibe and didn't want to watch like something I'd already seen before. So yeah, it was a good
no,
first time watch. I think I'd like tried to watch it one time or like fell asleep or just wasn't paying attention.
yeah. I feel like it's a movie that you could probably they should probably be more locked in for. But yeah, it's great. I'll probably, especially during Halloween season, this is a perfect kind of movie to watch if you haven't seen them already.
Yeah, it's on Peacock right now. That's what I watched it on. If you still have that.
I do, so I can watch it on Peacock, thankfully. But we have been recapped. We have been previewed. We know who the worst and the best top teams are according to the Brickyard. We know all about the Mark Sanchez saga. We know worst states according to ChatGPT. And now you know what we've been watching recently. You have been previewed, recapped. You're good to go for week 6 of the NFL. Make sure to check in next Tuesday at 9 o'clock when we go live again. But most importantly of all,
Stay
stay
right.
brick.